Derrek Cooper commits and national recruiting rankings here on the Portal Podcast.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. We're going to be talking all things Derrek Cooper, national recruiting rankings, and what the NIL Clearinghouse means. Those three things all intertwined within the next 10 days. Cooper committed to Texas yesterday, why Texas is moving up, their recruiting strategy and why it's working. And to be honest with the recruiting rankings, it's now the usual suspects in the top 20. It's the programs that traditionally have a chance to win the national championship, minus a couple. I'll explain that here on this edition. And to finish up, the NIL Clearinghouse. It's the one thing that can really shake up the national team recruiting rankings, because if the NIL Clearinghouse decides to pull back on some of these deals that are made with recruits, it can be lawsuit city, and I expect it to be, and it can also change one program and not another, and there could just be mass chaos. Do I think this is going to happen? Probably. But for now, we have our recruiting rankings, and I want to set the board with everything and where it's at. So we'll talk about that with the Clearinghouse combined. It is a very messy situation. But to start, Derrek Cooper plays at Chaminade Madonna down near Miami. That is a prospect that is good no matter which position you want to play him at. Safety, linebacker, running back, where he prefers to play. Put him in the slot. Derrek Cooper is an elite football player. He was awesome at the Under Armour camps, always wanting to take the reps, always wanting to go get more opportunities in one-on-ones. Didn't care if it was a drill, didn't care if it was a 40, broad jump, anything else. Derrek Cooper was a competitor. Here's why I find that unique. In today's society, with so many trainers and handlers saying, don't run that, don't do this, Derrek Cooper just went out and did it. I'm going to go and get better today. I'm not going to worry about any of the noise. I'm not going to worry about anybody, what else they say. I'm going to do what I do. At Rivals 5-star, he was in the slot in 7-on-7 and in drills, doing great. He was in drills for pass protection, a place where young running backs often, quite honestly, struggle. He was the best one there. Brandon Jacobs, great running back for the New York Giants, Super Bowl winner. He was coaching him up, and I asked him, so who was the best guy in that? He immediately pointed to Derrek Cooper. This is the kind of player that can be transcendent for your roster because he sets a tone by being the way you're supposed to, by showing it on the field. Derrek's not a huge talker. He's not somebody that's going to make a lot of comments. He lets his play do the speaking for the entirety of what he's about. And it works. I think he's the best overall running back prospect in the country because he's a 3-down back and because his ability to catch the football is so unique. 6'1", 6'2", 208 pounds, somewhere in that range. And he's at Chaminade Madonna, a great program. So he's being coached up, playing elite competition day in, day out. That's the kind of guy that makes a difference no matter what he's trying to do. He's going to help your program. So he commits to Texas. This is a little bit of a surprise to some, but late in the game, they made a move. At Rivals 5-star, Derrek had talked to different people, and pretty much everybody there thought that he was going to be a Miami Hurricane. He ends up making the decision for Texas. Georgia was also a major player, a team that Derrek Cooper originally committed to over a year ago. But now, again, he's a Texas Longhorn, and they have moved up in the rankings. We're going to talk a little bit about that here in a minute. But first, I want to go over some of the latest commitments just to get everybody caught up. Wilson Zaire committed to Auburn a few days ago. That's a big commitment for them. They need offensive linemen, really good offensive tackle. He could have went to Georgia. He could have went to Alabama. He could have went to Florida State. The final two were Auburn and the Noles. Congrats to Auburn on getting a really good offensive lineman. Miami, they go get Samorian Wingo. This is a wide receiver that probably goes under the radar. He plays at St. Aug High School, just south of Jacksonville, Florida. That kid's put together. He's really athletic, 6'2", I think this is a player that could play fairly early at Miami. I love his upside. If he'd have played at a major tradition-rich program in the state of Florida, Wingo would have been more coveted because he would have been in an easier place to get to, etc. He's just outside of Jacksonville. It's not terribly difficult, but that's not a first stop for coaches flying into the Jacksonville area. But he is really good. Taquan Brisky, an athlete, is going to Army. Always like to give a shout out to some of the service academies. He's an athlete, 6 foot, 180 pounds. TCU gets Zachary Taylor, wide receiver / athlete out of Jordan High School in Katy, Texas, just outside of Houston. TCU goes to the southern part of the state to take a kid up to the Dallas area. Georgia gets Valdon Sonnet, defensive lineman, 6'3", 320 pounds, out of Blue Ridge High School in Virginia. Another massive defensive lineman for Kirby Smart and his crew. Again, 320 pounds. They still like to two-gap a little bit. And they like to do some different things with size that other programs don't. Georgia's D-line class is nasty. Congrats to Georgia for getting another big D-lineman. Ohio State gets Jaquaden Guilford, a wide receiver, 6'3", 190 pounds, out of Fort Wayne, Northrop. This is a player with a lot of upside. He's a little raw, but he could really run. Originally a Penn State commit, he ends up with Ohio State. Ole Miss gets Craig Tutt. This is a safety out of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. He goes to Oakland High School. That's a program just outside of the Nashville area, known for a lot of prospects coming out of there. Ole Miss gets one out of Tennessee. South Carolina, for those who didn't see it, got Landon Duckworth, really good quarterback prospect out of Jackson, Alabama. This is a kid that could be a basketball player, a baseball player, a track athlete. He's just a phenomenal talent, and he's really starting to develop as a thrower. I think that he could be one of the best players in the country when all is said and done. He was pretty darn good at Elite 11 this year. I really like Duckworth's upside. Texas A&M, Tylen Wilson, another kid that I've had a chance to see. He plays at Pascagoula High School on the coast. I don't think that a lot of people know much about him because he's a Mississippi kid, but he's 6'3", 180, 190 pounds, can really change directions. He can really run. Big pickup for Mike Elko and the Aggies. Washington gets two players. They get Blaze Bavista out of Lincoln Way East in Illinois. That's crazy. Chicago area kid. He's a wide receiver. And they also get Rayshawn Duncan, a cornerback out of McClemens High School in Oakland, California. And once again, just to note, Derrek Cooper has committed finally. The 5-star running back will be a Texas Longhorn. When we come back, we're going to talk about the recruiting rankings. I'm going to break it down, put it on the screen for those of you on YouTube, and for those of you not, I'm going to talk about the 5 stars and all the different rankings and everything that's going on. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. Ever wish managing your money felt just a little bit easier? With Monarch Money, it certainly can. Whether you're growing your savings, planning your big purchase, Monarch Money puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your personal CFO right there with you. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building your wealth. The opportunity to be more organized, to financially look at things in one spot, save time, be efficient. Monarch Money's app will allow you to do that. So whether you're saving for your granddaughter's education, whether you're trying to get a 1968 Mustang you're saving up for, or anything else, home improvements, Monarch Money is an opportunity for you. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Truly appreciate you stopping in. Please like and subscribe and share this podcast with all your friends. If you like recruiting, if you like analytics on why teams win and don't with certain types of recruiting classes, we got a little bit of everything for you. And we're also breaking down the top teams as we get in closer to college football camp starting up. It's close now. We're at the end of July. We're going to get there. So we're about a week away. Everybody's going to be breaking camp. Going to have some of that as well. As for the recruiting rankings, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. This is kind of fun to look at this from a broad perspective. I'm going to put this up. I got the top 5. This is the rival / on 3 rankings. The guys from on 3, that they are now doing the rankings for rival. So it's a little bit of a mix up, but here's the list right now. I've got it on the screen. Top 5 is Southern Cal, Georgia, Notre Dame, Texas, Texas A&M. It's not a shocking list. if you think about the history of college football. And I'm just going to go ahead and give like the 18 or so schools that traditionally can win a national title, beginning with like 1980 to modern day. These are the 18 schools that most people think can win a title. Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, Nebraska, Oregon, Southern Cal, Oklahoma, Texas, Texas A&M, LSU, Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, the 3 Florida schools, Tennessee. That's pretty much it. But on this list that we get through, I'm going to go through and just kind of scroll down, and we'll talk about each class. It's almost exactly the list I'm talking about. Auburn's not on there. That's the other one that I didn't mention, but they're kind of on that fringe. And then sometimes Washington, that's another team some people think it should be included. They're in and out. Like when they're good, they're good. And when they're not, they're not. That's another school you can throw in the list. But the top 20 of the rankings right now, it's pretty much those schools I just mentioned. Very, very little difference in it. So again, USC, that's a program right now. They're rolling in recruiting, but they got most of their guys early. If you go by this ranking system, they got a couple of 5 stars. They got 19 4 stars, 10 3 stars, 31 players in the boat for Lincoln Riley and the Trojans. Georgia, 2 5 stars, 21 players at the 4-star ranking level, 7 3 stars. Notre Dame, 1 5-star, 18 are going to be 4 stars and 7 3 stars. Texas, that is 3 5 stars, 12 4 stars, and 6 total 3 stars. They only have 21 commits. I think Texas will have a few more, and don't be surprised if they flip somebody else. They got James Johnson recently flipped from Georgia. That was a big D-line flip for them. Texas A&M, only 1 5-star, but 19 4 stars. They are a really balanced class, 26 overall. 3 of them are 3 stars, or excuse me, 6 are 3 stars. Alabama, they have 4 5 stars. That's the most of anybody. 9 4 stars and 6 3 stars. Only 19 overall. Again, kind of like with Texas, there might be a few more guys coming. Anthony Jones in particular, we'll see where he goes. Oregon, 3 5 stars, 10 4 stars, and 2 3 stars. They have probably the highest ranking per player in this composite per on 3. LSU, 2 5 stars. They have 10 players that are ranked as a 4-star and 4 3 stars. Only 16 overall. LSU is probably going to finish pretty strong. Ohio State's got 21 overall, but 1 5-star, 13 4 stars, 7 3 stars. And to finish out the top 10, Michigan, 1 5-star, 12 4 stars, and 9 players as 3 stars. They have 22 commitments. Let's stop there for a second. Is anything among this list really surprising? To me, no, it's really not. And the biggest thing with that, if you think about the list in general, you're talking about the who's who of college football recruiting historically. Look where the schools are. And then think about the tradition of those institutions, the NIL, just combine the things together. Oregon's relatively new to the list, but since they have maybe the greatest booster of all time, Phil Knight, the owner of Nike, the creator of Nike, not really shocking. You have schools like SC, Notre Dame, Georgia, Texas A&M. These programs either have a ton of tradition or in a great location or both. It's not hard to sell them, so don't be surprised. And it's one of the reasons this list, and I'm bringing it up now, March and April, early May, I kept saying, look, Bama, Texas, Notre Dame, some of these schools, they're going to be jumping up the rankings. There are a bunch of guys they have set up for visits. Don't be surprised when they end up in the top 10, possibly the top 5. They're going after the big fish in recruiting. These young men usually take their time in making decisions, like Derrek Cooper, and he picked Texas. To win in recruiting, it is the long game. Getting out to a great start like SC did is great, and sometimes a team will do that and have a top class, but in general, the teams that finish at the top are the ones that play the long game and wait for the 5 stars. And it's high risk, high reward. But the teams that do it year in, year out usually win. So keep that in mind. Now, back to the list here for a second. Let's get into the second half of the top 20. Also, not exactly shocking. Miami, obviously, they came to power in the early 80s. They've got 5 rings. They got 1 5-star in this class, 14 4 stars, and 6 players as 3 stars, 21 players. Clemson, they don't have a 5-star, but they got 13 4 stars and 8 players that are 3 stars. Dabo's group, pretty darn good, 21 players in the boat. And the number one thing with them, and I'll talk about this a little bit on and off throughout the next several podcasts that I do with this, their retention amongst this group may be the highest because it almost always is. That's why they win. They have players that stick around, and that's why they're going to be a chance to win a national title this year. Florida, they don't have a 5-star according to Rivals, but they got 13 4-stars and 5 players that are 3-stars for 18 overall for Billy Napier's crew. Right below them, their rival, Florida State, 1 5-star, 11 players ranked as 4-stars and 9 3-stars. They have 21 players overall. Tennessee, 1 5-star, 10 players as 4-stars and 10 3-stars. Of course, Faison Brandon, the quarterback, is their 1 5-star. Penn State, no 5-stars, but 11 players ranked as 4-stars and 13 3-stars. They're the 16th team and 24 overall commitments. South Carolina, this is a team that has had some great recruiting moments on and off throughout history, but they're not consistent enough, and they always end up playing that tough schedule. They used to play in the SEC East. They've moved up as a program because they were 9-3 last year. It'll be interesting to see how they finish. They have 13 commitments, 9 of which are 4-stars, 4 are 3-stars. Washington, no 5-stars, but 8 4-star players and 12 3-stars, 20 overall for the Huskies. Number 19, Bill Belichick in the North Carolina Tar Heels. They've got 7 4-stars and 26 3-stars. They're going for quantity here, not necessarily elite players per the Rivals rankings, but a lot of really good prospects. And then Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, they got 14 overall, 6 4-stars, and 8 3-stars. So if you look at that list, South Carolina, North Carolina, Ole Miss, they're not traditionally teams that are right there in that conversation to win national titles, but they've had moments over the years. Of course, Mac Brown has had 2 tenures at North Carolina, 2 of the better tenures in that school's history. Ole Miss having one of their better runs right now because they got Kiffin there. South Carolina with Beamer, they're on the rise. They've got really good NIL. That's not shocking. So it's a great list and to look at. This is why teams are what they are. If going back to the top again, South Carolina, kind of like this is an example, one of those schools that is rising up, but are they a team that can do it consistently? We still need to find out. This is an important class for them if they're going to do it. But SC, Georgia, Notre Dame, Texas, Texas A&M, Alabama, Oregon, LSU, Ohio State, and Michigan. It's not surprising to me that they're doing this. And it shouldn't be surprising to you either. Those schools, again, I'm just going to name them. These are the teams that can traditionally win national titles that a lot of people talk about. Bud Elliott and I have like the same exact list, like the 18. And like Nebraska is in Washington or some of these schools kind of on that fringe. They go up and down. Some schools come on and off the list. But again, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, Nebraska, Oregon, USC. And then you're going to go down to the South, Oklahoma, Texas, Texas A&M, and LSU. You're going to have Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, Clemson, and then the 3 Florida schools, Miami, Florida, Florida State, Clemson. Like that's about it. Auburn is sometimes there, sometimes Washington. They're kind of on that fringe, but those are the schools. Nebraska's not on the list right now, but they've been down for a long time. They should be finally getting to the point where they're going to go to bowl games again, but they've taken a major hit in recruiting. Washington, they've had a good run of getting hiring good coaches, so maybe they should be included in that list again. That's fine. They were in the national title race a couple of years ago, so maybe they should be on that list. But they were off for a long time. They were very average. They had an 0-11 season, 0-12 under Tyrone Willingham in the mid-2000s. So that's a program that's made a massive comeback, and Jeff Fish has done a nice job. But again, overall, the programs that can win it, they recruit the best. The transfer portal is important to fill holes. If you're going to win national titles, make it to the playoff, though, more often than not, the vast majority of teams are going to do it with, quote unquote, the traditional method of attaining talent. And that's through the prep ranks. Elite recruiting, especially O-line, D-line, and quarterback. Those are the spots that matter the most. But overall, I wanted everybody to kind of get a thought process. The same schools that usually end up highest in the rankings are also doing the best in the recruiting rankings. So yes, the stars matter. They absolutely do. When we come back, I'm going to talk about the NIL Clearinghouse, how it could upset the recruiting rankings. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. What do you know about the NIL Clearinghouse? Like most of us, and I consider myself to be a recruiting junkie, there's really not a lot to know except for some basic information. We don't have any precedent. This is the first year for it. So let me define my interpretation of what it is and what can happen with the NIL Clearinghouse. It is about a couple of different things. And just going to say this about 20 times, but go ahead and start right here. Expect lawsuits. And here's why. There's multiple reasons. You're going to have these collectives, Auburn or Washington or Illinois, whatever school. They have people that are paying some of the athletes. The Clearinghouse and Congress, etc., they want those numbers to go under the $20.5 million cap overall. Keep in mind, that's that cap that came out with the House settlement case is for the entirety of an athletic department, not just a football program. That number is going to be arbitrary for the school to come up with their internal people, how much goes towards football, but I digress. The point is still the same. They want that number to go under the 20.5 cap. The way teams are recruiting, at least the vast majority of them, they're not looking at it that way. They're going to push the envelope. That's what I'm looking at here. I don't know the specific numbers across the board, but here's why that's important. Are you going to renege over half the deals for like the top 30 programs in college football, or at least renege some of them just because, or you're going to have to change them however you want to word it because you're going to be over your cap number? Are they going to make that many teams do it with these kids going into their senior years and National Signing Day, the first Wednesday in December? I believe it's December 3rd this year, December 4th, something like that. That would be a lot of problems. It would change recruiting insanely. Secondarily, not just the collectives themselves, but they're separate. How can you make an entity that is not under, again, pick a school, Georgia or Virginia or Penn State or whatever. They do what they want. Not the school. They do what they want with the athlete to represent them at a business, a restaurant, car dealership, whatever. That's not the institution. How are you going to force that to happen? And secondarily, if you try, they're just going to go back to the handing money under the table. So this is a ruse in the first place. And then finally, this is the one that I think is just going to end up being a disaster for the people in Congress that voted on this. Really dumb decision. Cannot stress how dumb this was. Trying to tell athletes what their value is when somebody wants to pay them more is a problem. And here's what I mean by that. There is this thought process that your name, image, and likeness, the actual name of NIL for each player, they're going to set a value for it. Well, how are you going to do that? Especially when some of these people, not even 18 yet, they're not even old enough to vote. You're going to tell them what they can and can't make. You're going to tick off a lot of people that do something very important. Again, I'm going back to Congress. They vote. Good luck, because they are going to sue the bejesus out of the NIL Clearinghouse anytime a young man's deal gets nixed, whether it's the school's deal, whether it's the NIL collective for that institution or anything else. So again, there's all kinds of in-game possibilities here. I have no idea where it's going to finish just in round one, which is now, but I expect lawsuits for years. My biggest question, though, is how quickly can we get to some point where these people just say, this is where I'm going. I'm not going to deal with this. I expect a lot of the kids just to take money under the table if they get their deal reneged, sign something else and just take money because they're not going to listen to it. This is the percent chance that's going to happen. 0. I know a lot of the players, I know a lot of people in the business, 0% chance the NIL Clearinghouse is going to change and level the playing field. 0. No way in the world. You're not going to do it. And to be honest, again, I don't understand how you can tell somebody, especially a teenager, what their name, image, and likeness value is. It's going to change game to game. Like if the kid comes in and balls out at Tennessee or at Texas A&M or at Clemson or wherever, there are going to be people hit them up. There's no such thing as a flatline number that you have to go by. And yes, you can have this deal or no. It's just going to be a disaster. But it could change some deals, and it could change where some kids go to school because another school may have more money still available than the school that a kid's currently committed to. So we could see some movement in the team recruiting rankings because some players move around because of this clumsy, awkward, and soon to be sued NIL Clearinghouse. That's what I expect. We'll see if I'm right or not. I know that everybody I've spoken to expects lawsuits, national media, local media, recruiting media, I haven't met anybody that thinks this is going to be smooth or that it's going to work out, quote unquote, easily. The closer we get to it, again, August 1st is the date. That is when all the deals have to be submitted. I don't know how quickly they're going to do it. I guess I should mention that as well. They need to do it quickly, and think about the hundreds and hundreds of deals that are available. That's crazy. I don't know how that's going to end, but I expect the NIL Clearinghouse to get sued, and it's going to be for years. And regardless, the players are going to go where they want, and they're just going to take money on the table. You're not going to tell them where they're going to go and how much they're worth, legally, illegal, however you want to call it. They're going to go wherever they want. So we'll see how that goes, but it's something to watch and expect a lot of news from it. I don't know who the first person to sue will be, or the first collective or the first school or whatever, but there's going to be a lot of it. So just wanted everybody to be aware. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Truly appreciate you stopping in and having some fun with the recruiting world. We will see you again tomorrow.